As Sir Paul Callaghan said right at the start, New Zealand's in a pretty good place with education. In terms of intellectual education, so the actual subject matter that we learn about in school, whether it be maths or English or science, we get the same type of education as we would in the other top countries all around the world, the United States, Asia and Europe. So we're in a really, really good place. But there is one obstacle. And this obstacle holds New Zealanders back from getting a wholesome, all-rounded education with a global perspective. And it's quite a literal obstacle. It's that big blue thing that stretches for thousands of kilometres every single direction from New Zealand. And what it does is it stops New Zealanders getting a global perspective. Let's just compare the education of a student growing up in France and a student growing up in New Zealand. So the student in France, every time you walk down a street, you're hearing different languages. You're experiencing different cultures, you're seeing different people. And that immersion, even in your own city, really helps to give you a different type of education that in New Zealand we're quite unlucky that we don't have because of that barrier. And as an example of that, I lived in Spain in 2009. And the conversation of students in Spain and students in New Zealand was quite different. Any event that happened in Spain, everyone was talking about what the implications of that are on a global scale, what is happening to all the different countries from all the different people in that school, what's happening to them. And it lies in quite a stark contrast to the education and the conversations that I have at school here in New Zealand. Now there is an opportunity around this, and what we need to do is we need to break down that barrier that is the ocean. So that New Zealanders can get this full-rounded education. It's not hard to do, we can do it. Lucky for us, there's this thing called the internet, and it's perfect for doing things like this. It's perfect for breaking down those traditional barriers that existed, and then giving people the opportunity to experience life without borders. Now, for example, there's some things here that actually do work to break down these borders, and provide a globally minded education. For example, TED and the RSA, the Royal Society for the Arts, they're two websites that you can visit and watch videos of people discussing world-changing ideas, world-changing thoughts, and by watching these videos, you can experience this globally minded view that we really need to encourage in New Zealand. I mean, just look at their taglines. TED's Ideas Worth Spreading, the RSA, 21st Century Enlightenment. Those are two pretty big things. And whereas students growing up in other countries get to experience a bit of that just by walking down their own street, or in Europe, flying to another country in a couple of hours at hardly any expense. These two things like that can help to break down those barriers for New Zealand students. And a bit of a shameless plug here, they don't teach us in school something that I'm working on that actually helps to solve this problem as well. It's a website that contains videos of leaders and thinkers answering in a minute or less the question, what's one thing that they didn't teach you in school that you wish you had known when you were younger? It's about passing on knowledge effectively between generations, and I hope it encourages that globally minded view. Now also when we look at the media in New Zealand, comparing the front page of stuff.co.nz or the Dominion Post to the front page of a newspaper such as the International Herald Tribune, which is the New York Times, or any other newspaper within Europe, such as the Spanish one, it's quite a contrast. It's all the world section of the newspaper is basically on the front in other countries, and in New Zealand it's all the local events first. And I think that by seeing these global events every single day on the front page of the newspaper, that helps to encourage a globally minded view as well. And luckily for us, through the internet, we can read those same things and experience that same media. And we shouldn't forget about the actual physical ways that young people in New Zealand can experience other cultures. So for example, the AFS exchange program, it's a great way for young people to pick a place they want to go and an amount of time they want to go there for, and experience full immersion in that environment. Another example is United World Colleges, a set of, I think it's 12 different high schools all around the world that you can apply to go to a scholarship to those schools and experience that culture for 2 years. And what I think is that the New Zealand government and the New Zealand private sector should be doing more to encourage this type of exploration. The barrier is the cost. And we shouldn't be viewing it as an expense of letting young people experience other cultures. It should be seen as an investment. It's a vote of confidence in the future leaders of New Zealand. And we need to take that investment very seriously, and I hope the government and the private sector in New Zealand will think about more ways that they could offer those opportunities to young people. Because in the end, the opportunity is it's ensuring young people don't have have the same whole-rounded education as a student in another country. And ultimately, what it means is that we can combine Kiwi ingenuity with a great education system that we already have, plus a globally minded view. And if New Zealand can foster that in young people from a young age, I really think we can get well ahead of everyone else. Thank you very much, everyone.